Guys, this is Kohlberger 500, and before I'm gonna react to the oversimplified video of the pig war. All credits go to the original creator, Oversimplified. Please go like and subscribe to him. His channel is actually amazing. Like I said, all credits go to him, and if this video gets copyright claimed, I'm sorry. I'm a little scared to try this, but
this video was made possible by NordVPN.
of course it
Click
is.
the link below to stay safe online and get a huge discount off a 2-year plan with a 30-day money-back guarantee.
Of course it is.
Trouble sleeping? Need someone to snuggle? Then why not snuggle? Me! The limited edition Oversimplified.
I actually want that. I want that right now,
for
though.
a few days only. Get it quick along with some beautiful new character
The
pins.
bucket. Anyone notice that Russian flag right there?
We've only gone and bloody done it. We beat the Brits and secured independence.
Revolutionary
Now let's move
War.
westward and conquer the rest of the continent. Thomas? It looks like a bunch of different
Thomas
people
Jefferson, if you
live
don't
out
know.
west. What? Oh no! That means we can't expand. I hate
Yeah,
my
yeah.
life. Whoa! I didn't say they were white people.
But people used to be racist. Don't be offended by that, but that was just how the things were back then, so. The pig war. This literally happened, though.
At the end of the Revolutionary War, when the United States secured its independence from Great Britain, the two sides met in Paris
Freedom.
to settle the terms. Among various things, they discussed American
Why Paris,
territorial
though?
gains, and the British granted them a generous amount of land out west.
Yay.
However, Benjamin
Why
Franklin
did Spain
appeared
get
to have
Florida,
an additional
though?
fascination.
Spain wasn't even in the war.
Canada, so voluptuous. You think we can maybe acquire some of that? Quit ogling our territory. But look at those curves. I'd worry less about Canada's curves and more about your own curves, Benjamin.
I like the faces.
Suggested that one day the Canadian colonies should become a part of
I like
the
that.
United States.
I like the little
in
pins.
response, Britain suggested that many in America should shut the hell up. Well, if Britain wasn't going to give up
True.
Canada, then the
But
two
not
sides had
true,
to
though.
agree on where to put their border. Easy enough for the most part. Follow some existing borders, add in a few rivers and lakes, maybe even a parallel for good measure.
For
But then there was a
non-parallel.
question. What would happen here?
Straight line, right?
Straight line. And so it was. The
course
border would
it
go
is.
from the northwesternmost point of this perfectly oval-shaped lake and continue in a straight line westward until it met the Mississippi River. Perfect.
Okay.
Or was it? Well, as it turned out, the lake didn't actually look like this, but like this. And the Mississippi wasn't here, but here. So in the end, none of that made even
I
the
mean,
slightest
this
bit
was
of
older
sense.
times,
Don't
so
blame the founding fathers. They were just using the best
John
map
Mitchell,
available.
you should be arrested.
Blame the guy who made it. But to the minds of the day, the issue had been solved, and it was
True.
finally time to start getting along.
The War of
Back to
1812.
war they go. The glorious War of
After the
1812
Louisiana
saw the
Purchase,
Americans
though.
try to invade Canada, and the British burned down the White House.
We even did a
But when
book
all was
about
said
that.
and done, it was pretty much a draw. And once again, America and Britain
Freedom-loving American right here. I don't know why I
entered
did
peace
that.
negotiations. By now, both sides realized the original border they came up with was a piece of hot garbage. And since America had also recently obtained a huge amount of land from Napoleon, they decided they would need to re-examine the border issue.
Straight line.
Straight
It's
line,
gonna-
straight
it's gonna
line,
follow
and
the
so it
49th
was.
parallel.
To fix the problems of the previous border agreement, they decided to go from the northwesternmost point of this lake, as had been previously agreed, down to the 49th parallel, and from there the line would go straight as an arrow up until the Rocky Mountains. But beyond the Rockies,
There's a
the
joint
two sides
occupation.
couldn't quite agree on where it would go next, because both sides claimed the territory beyond the
Imagine if
Rockies
Spain
was
just got that,
theirs.
the world would be much
See,
different.
throughout its early history, America as a nation had its eyes heavily fixated on all that juicy land out west, ripe for
Legacy.
invasion. I mean, settlementation. America
Okay.
wanted to expand. Not
like
only
that.
was it their right, some believed it was a destiny given to them by God himself
Manifest
to
destiny.
multiply and spread across the continent, like rats or disease. Okay, guys, just before we talk over everything, God definitely said this is what we're meant to do, right? Yeah,
No.
that's what he said, right?
Of course not.
And who was it who spoke to God?
Jesus and Moses.
Not
Not them.
Well,
they
it
can
was one
pray,
of us.
though.
There's no way we made this whole thing up to justify a ruthless collective imperialist
Sure
tendencies.
you didn't.
All right.
Sure.
Well, in that case, let's get out there and make the world a better place, just as God intended.
Yeah, let's do that. But not like this. McDonald's.
This belief in
The hell
divinely
going
destined
on?
expansion would later be given its very own name,
Manifest
Destiny. But America wasn't the only one interested in controlling
And
the
it's
Western
actually about
territories.
Canada.
At the time, Canada was made up of a number of colonies, collectively referred to as British North America. This one over here was owned by the Hudson
They didn't have the
Bay
rest of
Company,
Canada
a British
because it was
charter
way too
company
cold over there.
dedicated to turning as many beavers as possible into as many felt hats as possible as quickly as possible. And the indigenous people
Bro,
became a
what?
key supplier.
So they
As a
just turn them
result,
into
The
hats?
British were also eager to control the land out west and secure that region's valuable resources.
If America had
And in
gotten all that,
particular,
it almost
the Great
bordered Alaska.
Columbia River was deemed vital to the beaver business. So when it came to the
I mean,
question
like,
of what would
America
happen to
didn't
the
have
border
enough
beyond the
resources.
Rockies, the conversation went a little like this. The line should keep going straight because we're manifestly destined to gain
should
the
go
entire
straight
North
like
American
that.
continent. No,
Like that.
we need this river so we can keep scalping beavers. Look, why don't we just draw the border along the river? That way we both have access to it. Well, that would be a completely fair compromise that protects the interests of both parties. And there's no way I'm ever going to agree to it! Having come
America's
to a
always
roadblock,
like that.
both sides simply agreed that for now,
Yeah.
they would jointly occupy the Northwestern
Good
Territory.
boys.
They were both free to settle and trade there.
Finally,
But rest
peace.
assured, the agreement was only temporary. Eventually somebody would get their way. Listen, Yank, we can jointly occupy this land, but I ain't sharing anything else. I don't want to see you using my
That's
toothbrush.
personal property,
I don't
though.
wanna
You
catch
can't do
wearing
that.
my underwear. And I don't want to catch you using my computer and selling my data to
Oh, come
advertisers.
on.
Well, then you, my friend.
Nope, 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 nope.
The
No,
territory should be British, was James Douglas, the Hudson's Bay Company's no-nonsense chief factor at Fort Vancouver. Ah, what a beautiful, unspoiled corner of the British
Is it really
Empire.
the British
I've
Empire
got my
without
spotted
America,
dick,
though?
my Spice Girls fan club membership, and an unrelenting
Wait,
negative
go
outlook
back.
on life that of Fort Vancouver. Ah, what a beautiful,
Like I said, isn't it
unspoiled
really,
corner
like-
of the British Empire. I've got my spotted dick, my Spice Girls fan club.
Okay,
membership,
but
and an
that's
unrelenting
not.
negative
It's
outlook
not
on
a
life that
bad
affects
word though.
everyone around me.
It's actually
What
what
do
it's
you want,
called.
Steven? Yes. Truly British.
Here comes the Americans. I mean, was it because of the Oregon Trail though?
The
It was
problem
because
for
of the
Midland
Oregon
Douglas
Trail.
was that many Americans had already begun streaming up the Oregon Trail.
Yeah, that's what I got to
Gunslinging,
it.
howdy neighboring it, diarrhea having. By the
hell.
thousands, they were pouring into the Oregon Territory in search of land.
I mean,
to
it was
settle
jointly
and farm.
occupied, so
This,
I
however,
mean,
crowded out the fur trade, and eventually, a very bitter Douglas and the other Hudson's Bay traders at Fort Vancouver were ordered to relocate north to a new base of operations.
yeah,
But
it
the
was
Americans keep
Vancouver
coming
Island.
and they don't stop coming. Hopped in their wagons and they hit the ground running. Didn't make sense to keep sharing Oregon when they outnumbered the Brits more than 6-1. And suddenly, the whole joint occupation deal was being called into question. Newly elected
The line would
President
go
Polk
straight,
maintained
though.
that America had an obvious claim to the entire region, even implying a possible war with Britain. Fiery language from U.S. senators declared that American rifles would annihilate the Hudson's Bay Company in Oregon. And
probably
America
true,
even
unless
gave
the
Britain
Navy was
notice
involved.
that it was pulling out of the joint occupation agreement. The British were alarmed as the two sides stood
Bruce
on the
T just
brink
falls into
of
the water.
war. But in the end, neither
Oh, I know.
truly wanted to fight. The British favored maintaining good economic relations, while the Americans had already gotten themselves into a war with Mexico. So
That's
after
in
a bit of back
California.
and forth, the British finally said, "Fine, you wanted a straight line? There's your straight line."
Yay.
And so, the agreement was made. The border would continue directly to the Strait of Georgia,
That guy
but
was
because
probably
the British
Texan.
insisted they keep Vancouver Island,
Yeah.
it would then move south through the center of the channel and on to the Pacific Ocean.
Yay.
Finally, the issue
Everything's
of the
solved.
northwest border had been solved. But hold the phone. Discrepancy
The hell?
detected. Enhance frame, 200%.
I've seen the video though, so I know what's going on.
Enhance. Enhance.
Mate, that's a little too far.
Too far. Perfect. Now, show me the exact wording of the treaty. The line of boundary goes to the middle of the channel, and thence southerly through the middle of said channel. But there's loads of channels.
Aren't Americans dumb?
You tell
some
me,
of them?
dear viewer, which
This is a
channel
perfect
is the treaty
example.
referring to, and therefore, who owns these islands?
Does it
Is
really
the
matter
wording of
though?
the treaty maybe a little too vague? Well, that's exactly the problem encountered by the people living in the area. The British insisted that
I mean, like, it's just a few islands. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Just jointly occupied it again. No
area
subtitles.
intended by the treaty was the Rosario Strait, and therefore the islands were British.
Why are they even worrying
The
about it
Americans, on
though?
the other hand, argued that the intended channel was the Harrow Strait, and therefore the islands were American.
That's what it is
At
today.
times, the debate became rather heated. Even the individuals who negotiated and signed the treaty at times didn't seem entirely sure which channel the treaty meant.
Well, if they were
and
the one who signed the
representatives from the Hudson's
treaty,
Bay
they should
Company
know.
begged them to make it clearer. But
Exactly what
thousands
I
of
said.
miles away, the people in power simply had more to worry about than some tiny islands in the middle of nowhere. All right, listen up. We got a lot to get through. The 7th Earl of Chissingham says he encountered a foul beast in the fields of Upper Fardingdom late last night and put this sketch together. That's a poor person, Darren. Next, Lord Piddlingham says he has a new mole on his backside. How is that parliamentary business, George?
Yeah, it's just personal business.
Some islands in the Pacific Northwest are in dispute and could lead to a war with America. Boring. Fine. Let's take a look at that mole, George. And so, for now, the islands were simply held in dispute. Were they British or were they American? I'm sure this conflict won't cause anyone to die.
I'm sure.
Man who thought
Yeah,
the islands
definitely
were
sure.
undeniably British was James Douglas, now the governor of Vancouver Island. He had already once had American settlers encroach on his territory and force him to move.
Wasn't really his fault
And
though.
by golly, he wasn't going to let it happen again. As far as he was concerned, those islands were not only British, but prime agricultural land. And given the chance, those glubby Yanks wouldn't hesitate to start pitching flags with their glubby little hands. And
I
so,
mean, like,
he came up
it
with
is
a plan.
disputed,
If the
so.
British settled the islands first, then that would surely secure them for Britain. And so in
No.
1853,
I don't
Douglas
think
sent
so.
an Irishman by the name of Charles Griffin, along with some Hawaiian shepherds, to go set up a sheep farm on San Juan Island. And set up a sheep farm they did.
Stupid.
You can earn your degree online at
Why
Southern
right
New
now?
Hampshire University. And
Okay.
the admission process
Since
is
I don't
easy.
want to edit
Everything was very
this,
user-friendly, and I had a lot of support from the
I think the video is good so
SAT
far.
GI
If I haven't been
program.
talking enough,
I was able to earn credit for my military
that's fine. I will maybe react to another one.
I'm looking to move my
So,
career forward and also be promoted
yeah.
to the military. My name is Rob, and I earned my degree online from Southern New Hampshire University. Visit SNHU.
Also, did you know that skibbity bot bot dong is? Yes, skibbity. I'm trying to entertain you guys, but I can't. I'm not an entertainer. I'm not a comedian.
Keep that shower
I might
feeling all
I
day
might skip this, you know. You can just skip it. I'll tell you the exact time. Oh wait, no, I can't because you're gonna wait. Sorry, but
For arm raising confidence.
Okay.
Dial 72.
okay. Okay. Let's go.
The place was rammed with sheep, 1,369 to be exact.
How do they
But
even know
within those
that?
flocks of woolly cowards could also be found a number of beautiful, prized Berkshire pigs. Oh,
Where do they even get the pigs
you
from?
look stunning. You're the greatest thing that's ever happened
Probably
to
because
me.
he only wants
Would
to
you
eat it.
perhaps like to go to the island bowl together tonight? Oink once for no. Roll around in that cow crap if yes. Yes, I'm covered in poo and I'm the luckiest man alive.
I mean,
But life on
boyfriend,
the island of
girlfriend,
Charles
pig.
Griffin wasn't to
How-
be a
how is
perfect
that-
paradise
like,
of
that's
pig
not
patches,
genetically possible.
Because unfortunately for him, the Americans also believed the island was theirs.
It is
One
theirs.
day, in 1854,
It is
an American
theirs.
customs collector was sailing around the islands on the outlook for bands of native tribesmen when he spotted something. Aha! I've got you now, you savages.
If I
Over
sister and the
yonder.
savage.
Those are sheep, sir. Sheep, you say? What are they doing here?
The
Let's
British.
go and negotiate with them. Negotiate with
See,
sheep?
Americans are
You're
dumb.
crazy? I'm perfectly stable, you rat bag. Call me crazy again and I'll eat your eyes! Hello, good sir. We request to speak with your leader. Out of my way. Allow me to parley with this foul beast. Hey, stop threatening my sheep. Your sheep? You mean to tell me that you, a British subject, have illegally imported these sheep into
Yeah.
American territory?
I mean, it is
I'll
disputed.
have you know that you, an American, are currently trespassing on British territory. The Americans felt
They're
that
speaking
they
like
were
the sheep
entitled
now.
to
They
collect
know
taxes
sheep
on the British
language.
property, because the island was American,
Yeah.
and they threatened seizure if dues weren't paid. The British, meanwhile, threatened
that
to
the only
arrest
thing he
the
says?
Americans. You know, because the island was British, and the two sides
I like
were
how
in
he
a
just says the
standoff.
islands were
To give
American and
Charles
British,
Griffin
and
the
that's
legal
funny.
power to deal with the American trespassers, Douglas said, "Hey, put on this wig. Boom, you're a magistrate now." And in turn, Griffin
He
went
just
to one of his
magically
Hawaiian
turns
shepherds
into
and
a-
said, "Hey, I'm making you a constable. Put on this badge."
It's gonna hurt him.
The British then went off to arrest the U.S. Customs inspector. But, being an American, he emerged from his tent with 4 pistols and a giant knife, so the Brits had to back down. Eventually, raids by northern tribes chased the U.S. officer from the island.
Okay, so Britain
but the
can't kill
Americans
America,
weren't
but
done
tribes
yet.
can?
Officials from nearby Whatcom County in Washington Territory believed the island fell
Whatcom.com.
under their jurisdiction, and they decided it was time to make the British pay up once and for all. They sent one Sheriff Barnes to go confront Charles Griffin. "Hey, you owe us
You can't do that.
$80.33
Calculators
for
didn't
this
even exist
Barnes
during that
after you
time.
got here. Go suck an egg." Oh, I see. So that's how it is, huh? That's how it's gonna be, is it? That's the way in which things are,
Is he
eh?
from Texas? I bet all
That
these
be
guys
how
are from
it will, is
Texas.
it? Will it be how that is, huh? That be the way in which things be the way they are, is it? Get off my property! So the sheriff
It's
and
not
other
his
Whatcom
property,
County
it's
officials
American.
felt they were now well within their rights to seize and auction off Griffin's sheep
Oh,
in order to
dang.
recoup lost taxes. And who had they auctioned these prized breeding rams off to?
They're-
But themselves.
they're bidding
Then,
the
in a
dogs,
pretty chaotic
or
scene, they worked
the
to tie the
sheep.
rams to their
So
boats.
dumb.
And when Charles Griffin
Why
came
doesn't
running
an
to rescue
American?
his kidnapped sheep, being Americans, they pulled out guns on him, and he had to back down. In all, Charles
Why do they
Griffin
just always
lost
have guns
34
on them?
breeding rams, and he was furious. The British complained to the American government,
St. Juan.
who were
St.
shocked
Juan
to
is the
hear what had been
capital
going
of
on at
Puerto
the
Rico.
northwest border, and both governments told their officials in the area to back off. We're not trying to start a major war over some dumb sheep and a stupid island. But also, the islands are definitely ours. Under no circumstances let the other side have them. For now, both governments
They're
agreed to
both
set up
greedy.
yet another boundary commission to
Maybe.
decide which channel was the correct border.
I like
But
the
it
Japan
often
and the
devolved
Germany up
into
there.
petty bickering. The British did
Oh,
make
I like
one
this.
interesting suggestion, though. We could draw the border through this middle channel and split the islands between us. Well, that would be a completely fair compromise.
Hold on. I like this Nintendo 60, the SNES, the Nintendo NES. I like that. And also, there's a German Empire and Japan up there.
It's the interests of both parties. And there's no way I'm ever going to agree to it! In the
America.
aftermath of
Yeah.
the sheep raid,
Of course
James
that's America,
Douglas,
though.
still stationed at Fort Victoria, became even more cautious of American encroachment into his territory. Mr. Douglas, sir, it appears an Indian has discovered gold in the Fraser Canyon, just north of here. Shut up! Keep your voice down, boy. We can't risk those glubby Americans hearing about this,
They're gonna
or
hear
our
about it.
territory here will be infested
They're
with
gonna
them.
hear about it. Of course they did. Again.
The Fraser Canyon gold rush attracted a heap of Americans to the region. Some got lucky. Most did not.
Yeah, meow,
And of
meow.
those that didn't, rather than returning all the way home, many simply decided to settle in the area. And in particular, the juicy green pastures of San Juan Island
Yeah.
were rather appealing. Believing the island was American territory, around a dozen American settlers moved there.
I mean,
in
if
the
it is
late
disputed,
1850s.
technically
One of
anyone
them
can
was
go
a
on
man
it.
named Lyman Cutler,
But
a
we'll
young
decide to
man
go
in
after
his
you.
mid-20s and lazy as pie. He didn't want to have to clear a space in the forest to build his home, so he said, I'll just build my cabin right in the middle of this British sheep run. I'm sure that won't make anyone mad.
Yeah,
But he
I'm
planted
sure.
potato seeds in his garden. Rather than building a nice protective fence around them, he said, I'll just fence in 3 sides and hope all these British farm animals have a moral compass and respect my property rights.
They can't.
Griffin's pig was a Berkshire,
slap the pig
well
in.
known for rooting, and Lyman's fairly pathetic fence made for a bad combination. Numerous times he had had to chase the pig away from his property, and he once angrily marched up to Griffin's home, saying, Hey, British farm idiot, keep your stupid pig out of my potatoes. It is up to you to keep your potatoes out of my pig.
Bro.
Griffin was furious with
Imagine
his
if he
new
actually
American
said that,
neighbors. They built their homes all over his sheep pastures. And besides, what right did they have to be here anyway?
No.
It was British territory.
No, the
Lyman,
British
on
had
the
no
other
right
hand,
to be there.
saw the American government had assured him his land claims were legitimate. And so to him, the British were out of line. Look at
Imagine if America won the World War of 1812. This would have never happened.
sick freak. In love with his pig. Isn't that just sick? Yeah. What a freak! Not like our love, Spuddy. Ours is all natural. Yeah, just a man and his potato.
Aren't they both natural?
Nothing wrong with that. But the tension between Lyman and Griffin was just about to explode.
The pig.
What the? Spuddy? Oh,
I like how he has the
you
gun.
Damn dirty pig. That's the final straw.
Shoot, man. Birds look so fake.
Lyman shot the pig.
Nah.
After taking a second to calm down, he felt bad about murdering Griffin's prized boar. So he went to him and said, "Hey man, look, I kinda just killed your pig."
I mean, at least he was
It was
sorry.
eating my potatoes again, and I don't know, man. I kinda just killed your pig. Killed your pig. Killed your pig.
I mean, the potato was his though, so you can't. I mean, the potato's not a human, but like, bro's obsessed with this pig. The pig is like his mom.
You swine! No, the swine is the one I killed. I'm Lyman. Griffin demanded Lyman pay $100 for the loss of the pig,
No.
an outrageous sum at the time. Obviously, Lyman refused, threatening to shoot any more animals that dared enter his property, even threatening to shoot Griffin himself.
Whoa.
When Griffin complained to James Douglas, British officials went and confronted the pig killer. Again, they insisted he pay up, and if he didn't, Lyman claimed they threatened to arrest him and take him back to Victoria. British officials arresting an American on American soil and trying him under British law.
That's illegal.
Now that's controversial. And it's a controversy that attracted the attention of an American general in charge of the Department of Oregon, one William.
I mean, it would have never happened if Britain or America would have gave it to the other side, so. No? Stop. I won't do that.
Harney. This guy, General Harney, had a reputation. He's the kind of guy who invades Mexico without orders, wasting valuable resources and creating an embarrassing situation for everyone involved.
I mean, you
He's
have
the
to
kind of
follow.
guy
You
who
have
was one
to
of his
follow
own men
your
arrested
orders.
for writing the wrong header on a report.
Report.
He's the kind of guy who finds a dog digging up his yard and then chases it for 1.5 miles just to give it a beating. He hated superiors, hated being told what to do, and had been court-martialed 4 times
I mean, he
for
wants to do his
disobeying
own
orders. Contemporaries described him as an imbecile, all matter and no mind, an arrogant humbug, and a laughingstock. Like I said,
He's all that.
General Harney had a reputation. He hated the British and was out for any opportunity to earn personal glory for himself. By some accounts, he even wanted to become president.
Imagine if he
And
did
so,
that.
in July 1859, when he happened to visit San Juan Island, and he learned of the plight of the Americans living there, the shooting of a pig, and the British threat to arrest
Bruh.
Lyman Cutler, General Harney went into scheme mode.
The British are dead.
Hey, yo,
They're
Captain
cooked.
Pickett. Yes, sir.
Pickett.
Listen carefully. I need you to go pick
Why
up
is
some
bro
flowers
calling from
and
a-
bring them to my place later. I
He's calling from a
got
banana and he's calling from a
Here I
dryer or
am, sir.
whatever.
What's the plan? Pickett, you and I are going to
I always
start
like
a
the
war.
little references in this.
What do you mean,
That
sir?
are so subtle.
Okay, listen up. An American man shoots a worthless pig on San Juan Island, and the British threaten to arrest him.
On American
Outrageous.
soil.
But we can use it. We
That's
get the
controversial.
settlers there to send us a petition saying they need American troops for protection.
Save
That's
our
when you go
bacon.
with your men and occupy the island.
Well, look, they
The
would have
British
killed the
will find
pig either
American
way,
troops
probably
on an
because
island
they
consider
have the
theirs
bacon.
so offensive, they won't hesitate to blow
I like
the
how that's almost the
smithereens.
British Raj flag.
Then, it's war. We bring in reinforcements and we fight back. I'll write to Washington, D.C., letting them know what's happening. But here's the kicker. My letter will take 6 whole weeks to get there. Before the government even gets a chance to respond, telling me I'm an idiot and ordering me to cease fire, the island will be ours. Hell, we could even invade Vancouver Island or British Columbia. It's foolproof. Wow, very impressive, sir.
Wow.
But I gotta ask, why? Well, I'll level with you, Pickett. Historians still contest exactly what it is I'm trying to do here. It's possible I'm trying to expand
He's
America's
probably
territory.
trying to
Maybe I'm
become.
trying to play the
He's
hero,
probably
so I
trying.
can become
I bet he's
president.
probably trying to get a
Some
better
have even suggested
reputation.
that
That's what
since
I'm
I'm a
trying to
slave-owning
say.
Southerner, I
Yeah.
may be trying to create a diversion to help the South secede in the upcoming Civil War. But if there's one thing that almost everyone can agree on, it's that I'm an idiot. I foresee. But hold on, what you tell me to bring flowers for?
He likes
Because, Pickett, They're pretty and I like them. There are also historians who believe that Harney and Pickett had no secret plan at all and were not scheming masterminds, but simply hot-headed buffoons, genuinely outraged at the audacity of the British and trying to protect American
I mean, the
citizens.
British were an
But the
empire
fact
and
of
they
the matter
wanted
is,
some stuff,
Pickett
so.
took the very controversial and extremely provocative act of landing American troops on disputed territory. He set up his camp in a very exposed position and erected a very provocative sign proclaiming that only American laws applied on the island. It was almost like he was
Now is
asking
probably
to be
what
fired upon.
happened.
Or,
Because now, you
again,
know, it's American
maybe he was just an
territory.
idiot. When a British
He is an
official
idiot,
sent
though.
to the island to get rid of the unruly American settlers now saw that there were American troops, he demanded they leave. He was obviously told to go suck an egg. When Douglas found out, he was enraged. To him, the American landing constituted an invasion. Harney sent a report back to the War Department in
I like how it's
D.C.
the same
justifying
house
his
all the
actions
time.
with exaggerated claims of British villainy. But he knew
Well-
it would take 6 weeks to get there, and another 6 weeks for the reply to come back. For now, the situation was entirely in the hands of local military and government officials, and the ball was in the British court.
Imagine
With
if the president
temperamental
actually
Governor
came.
Douglas and the powerful
this
British
could've-
Navy respond to the American provocation
Yeah, see, I knew
with force.
the Navy
Were
would.
Britain and America really about to go to war over the shooting of a pig?
No.
Well, if one man were to have his way, it's entirely possible they would. James Douglas had already had Americans force him out of Oregon. They had threatened his position in Victoria during the gold rush. Now they had invaded his island, and he had it. It was time to turn to
Had
the
it?
Royal Navy.
Oh, come
Extra
on.
absorbent, even for your
Stupid
messiest meals.
ads.
Remedy
Just
Care
about to
Napkins.
finish it.
Elevate every day.
I'm just gonna stand in front of the screen.
Some of my students, they have never been to school. They don't know how.
Mute it so you can't hear anything. Now, I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back. Wait, no, you can't watch the video, so I can't. I don't know if you can watch the video or not. So, okay, unmute it.
B. Go to the island and prevent any more Americans from landing. And take this magistrate with you to arrest Captain Pickett. Use force if necessary.
You
Just
can't arrest the
don't do anything
captain.
to start a war. Wait, you want me to use force but not start a war?
He's an idiot.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that too much to ask? Princess! When Captain Hornby got to the island and saw that the
I mean,
American force there was even larger than
use
expected,
force,
his
but it's hard
concern
to not
grew.
start
He
a
sent
war
word back
after
to
you
Douglas,
use
who
force.
in response ordered even more ships to the island.
Ah!
At this point, the naval officers were like, hey man, let's talk. They were concerned Douglas's escalation was leading them to war, and they convinced him it probably wasn't a terribly good idea to just go up to an American military captain with his armed men and say, hey bucko, you're under arrest.
Yeah, that's not a good idea.
Please don't shoot me. Douglas
How do
gave
you
in
do
to
not
prevent
shoot?
any hostilities. He canceled all orders and told the Navy, for now, to simply keep an eye on the Americans. He did send one more ship for good measure.
Bruh.
Captain Pickett, now seeing the British ships with their
Okay,
guns
now
aimed
it's a
directly
different
at his
British flag?
exposed camp, said, see Jeff, look at that. We're about to get blown to bits. All according to plan.
What?
Hang on. Oh crap, Jeff, we're about to get blown to bits!
Yeah, I was like, what?
Run! Pickett hastily moved his camp from its very exposed position to another position, which, as it happened, was also very exposed.
Just put it in the
It
middle.
probably won't surprise you to learn Pickett came dead last in his graduating class. Nearby
I like the
American and
president.
British officials began showing up to ask Pickett what the heck he was even doing. Then, a bunch of tourists
He
showed
was
up,
just being
because
an
a major
idiot.
war breaking out on their
Absolutely.
doorstep was the single
Ah!
most exciting thing to ever happen in any of their miserable frontier lives. One Charles Griffin was particularly unhappy. First, his pig had been shot. Now his sheep pastures were being trampled by soldiers and tourists alike.
Bruh.
He complained to Governor Douglas, who was still pretty upset about the whole thing. Douglas felt British honor itself was at stake, so he decided
Whoa.
that if American forces were allowed to be on the island, well then by golly,
It's not.
the British should be there too. It would be
No.
a joint
It's American
military
territory.
occupation.
Stop.
Upon hearing Douglas's new plan to land British troops on the island, Captain Hornby decided to go speak with Pickett in person. After informing him of the plan, Pickett replied that if they dared land, he would open fire.
That's what you should
So
do.
there they were.
No,
The
don't do
British
that.
had
Don't
orders
do
to
that.
land. The Americans had
Do
orders
that.
to
That's
prevent
really,
their
really
landing.
bad.
This was it. War over a small island in the middle of nowhere.
I was like,
Over
yeah.
a pig and some potatoes. Over whether the US-Canada border looked like this or like this. It was stupid. Hold on. This is stupid.
See?
To heck with it. I'm not landing those troops.
Yeah, don't.
I'm not gonna be the one who starts a war.
See,
The
don't
captain
start a war.
decided not to follow
Bro's
Douglas's
actually
order.
right for
And good
once.
thing he didn't, because pretty soon after that, the leading British admiral in the entire Pacific region showed up. Rear Admiral Baines
I mean,
outranked
good
Governor
boy.
Douglas. When he heard of everything that had been going on, he was stunned. But when he
I
heard
mean, it's
that
just a
Thurman
little island.
had
You don't need to put
refused
that many
Douglas's
troops.
plan to land troops, Baines could have kissed him. Whether he did or not, history doesn't tell. But I like to think they did. The Rear Admiral canceled all of Douglas's orders and instead pursued a policy of not interfering with the Americans until he could contact the British
I hope he
government.
didn't.
The Americans, not knowing the British no longer intended to land, had sent reinforcements and began fortifying. But even
Wow.
still, the British Navy did nothing. And finally, when word made it across the planet, informing the two governments of the ongoing crisis, everyone was shocked. Holy crap! Harney landed troops on disputed
You
territory?
shouldn't do that.
Man, I hope the British don't find out about this. Buchanan? Oh crap! The British! Why are we getting reports of American troops on San Juan Island? Whoa. I don't know, man. Nothing to do with me. But you're the president.
Yeah,
What?
he's the president.
Breckenridge? Am I the president? Yes, sir. And hey, we got a problem. It looks like the southern states are considering seceding, and we're headed for the biggest crisis in the history of the nation. And it's your job to fix it,
It's
sir.
a civil war.
Sir?
Evidently.
no.
Oh.
Go away. Not the curtain again, Mr. President. I'm not here. Buchanan. Back in the Pacific Northwest,
Roast it.
Harney was
Roast it
beginning
now.
to realize the government may not be terribly impressed with his reckless actions. So he began firing off even more aggressive letters, justifying what he had done. Telling the British were sending bands of Indians to attack our men, and that they're big meanies with coal for hearts,
Whoa.
and that they made me cry like a little girl. No, that makes me sound weak. They made me cry like a big girl. Yeah, that's it. When the president received Harney's new letters, his anxiety only grew stronger.
I like the music.
Oh, crap. Hey, General Scott, please make this go away.
Yeah.
Leave it to me, sir. General Winfield Scott was the commanding general of the entire U.S. Army. Well known for his negotiation
Entire
skills,
US
he was
Army?
a veteran
Shouldn't
of
you
the
have
Mexican-American
multiple of them?
War, during which time he had had to deal with General Harney's idiocy and insubordination.
Yes, he is
and
an
he
idiot.
watched as Harney got away with it all, thanks to his friends in high places. It's safe to say that Scott really did not like General Harney.
Makes
By
sense
now,
though.
General Scott was racked with gout, and he was so big, he had to be hoisted onto his ship in a basket. Nevertheless, he began a long journey to the Pacific Northwest.
Whee!
Okay, everyone, get over here. Will somebody please tell me what the heck is going on? I'll tell you, General. It all started on one fateful day last summer.
When someone shot a pig.
Spuddy? All right, you damn dirty pig. That's the final straw. What? Hey, you can't get away from me! Look at that pig. Nowhere left to run, eh? I'm gonna enjoy this.
Lyman, if you spare my life, I grant you 3.
That's pretty. No, it wasn't like that. He regretted it
So
at the
you
end.
see, General, the pig wasn't even on his property when he shot
was.
it. Liar! He's lying to you, General. I'll tell you what really happened. What a pleasant summer's afternoon here on my humble farm. It's just me and my beloved potatoes. I'm so happy. Say, Lyman, them some nice spuds you got there. Would be a shame if somebody ate them.
No, that's
Again,
not.
you beast.
that's not what
Leave
happened.
my potatoes alone. Yeah, I'm gonna eat them, Lyman. I'll eat them. And then
No, bro.
I'm gonna eat you.
Bro.
Stay back. I'll shoot. Go ahead, punk. Make my day. Shoot me. Shoot me. He made me do it. He made me do it. So you're telling me you guys nearly started a war with the strongest naval power in the world over the shooting of a pig?
I mean, that is a
now
totally
he's starting to
reasonable
get it.
reason
Not
to do
only the
it.
pig, sir. The British then threatened to arrest this poor, pure American soul. Thank you, General. Shut up. I don't care about you. Okay. I've made up my mind. You're an idiot. 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 You guys are fine. And you two are the most mind-numbingly brain-dead ding-dongs I've ever encountered in all my life, and I'll see you in my office. Okay, Harney, listen. I cut a deal with the Brits. Here's how it's gonna be.
Let's see.
Both sides will maintain a small force on the island for a joint military occupation
Yeah, that's what I
until our
said.
two governments can decide who owns the island. Now, the only way they'd agree to that is if Pickett is removed from command. So I'm replacing him with Captain Hunt here.
Whee.
Now, Harney, listen to me. Do not, under any circumstances, put Pickett back on that island. Okay? I mean it, Harney.
He's gonna do
not
it.
order Pickett back onto the island.
He's gonna do it.
Understood? Yes, sir. Good. I'll see you, Glebos, later.
He's gonna do it.
Is he gone? I think so. Good. Hunt, you're fired. Pickett, you're going back on
I
the
knew
island.
it.
All right, you psychopath. I've been waiting years for this. I hate you. I've always hated you. Not only ordered Pickett back onto the island, but his department
I knew
even
he was
notified
gonna do
the
it.
British that it did not recognize the joint occupation settlement,
Get wrecked.
while everyone else had decided on peace. Harney appeared to still be threatening war. Needless to say, a furious Winfield Scott soon removed him from command and sent him elsewhere. In Harney's absence, the joint occupation...
I mean, that is stupid if you don't follow a general's order. So if you ever become a military guy, don't do it. You're probably gonna get fired.
went ahead, and the troops actually got along together quite well. The British attended 4th of July celebrations at the American camp.
That's
while
surprising.
The Americans visited the British
That's very
for Queen
surprising.
Victoria's birthday.
Today, that
Even
would have
Pickett
been.
became good friends with his British counterpart. War, it seemed, had been avoided, thanks largely to the level-headed actions of the Royal Navy and General Winfield Scott.
Good
Of course, the
job.
islands were still in dispute, and the question of who exactly owned...
Oh, come on. I didn't do that. Come on. Stupid.
Nailed Danny.
Do I really have to go back? Well, yeah, that was a reaction. So, bye guys. I'm coming for you. Sorry I didn't react to the whole video because I didn't find it